One of my favorite things to do during the summer is pound the banks on a good water year with dry flies on the lower Yuba. While we don't get to fish dry flies all the time here in Northern California, when we do, it can be pretty good. So a lot of times we fish a chubby Chernobyl, some sort of foam hopper pattern, and a dropper beneath it. Well, I think California trout, if you give them the option, they're going to eat the nymph over the dry fly most times. So what I like to do is I like to give them a second dry fly option, something right in the film, something smaller, a little more natural looking. And for that, I came up with Hogan's all-purpose red dry fly. So call it a dry fly, call it a merger, whatever it is. I fish it right behind a big chubby Chernobyl all summer. Also fishes well in the film as a general attractor. Just a nice pattern to have in your arsenal that's going to do a lot of different things for you. This one's tied on a Firehole 316. This is a size 14. Again, I start with 8/0 camel thread, and I kind of like this fly to sit in the film, okay? And so it's definitely not a super high floating fly, but it's one that's gonna kind of sit in the film, hover right on the surface, and that's why it makes such a good kind of dropper off maybe a bigger, more buoyant fly. So I'm gonna take a piece of extra small red uni wire, tie that in, and work my thread back down to right about where that bend of that hook starts to go south. I'm going to take a clump pheasant tail, about the same amount you would for a pheasant tail nymph of this size. Take it in and give it a pheasant tail. Something to kind of sit down in the water. Take that thread, rip it forward. Then I'm just going to palmer that pheasant tail like you would tie a pheasant tail nymph. Palmer it up right about a little past halfway. Right about if you were going to tie a parachute fly, I think the proportions would be correct. Trim it off. Then I'm going to take that wire. I like the small, just I feel like maybe it's a little lighter, the extra small, but you could get away with small. And I'm a huge fan of red as an attractor color. You'll see that in this fly, somewhat of a theme. So then I'm going to take some red buggy dub, and you can use, this is one of those where less is more. Just kind of give it a loose. I like the Mountain Bayou dub, which is kind of a boutique dubbing brand, but anything with a little bit of fuzz that's going to kind of come back like that. Then I'm going to give it a little bit of an underwing. One of my kind of favorite things to do is just take some clump of CDC off the feather. This is just dun color. Tie it right in there as an underwing. And you can pinch those if you so see fit. Then I'm going to take some bleached. I like the bleached because I can see it. This is a pretty dark fly otherwise. But that, CDC under there is going to keep the perspective of what the trout sees in that dark area. Put it in my hair stacker. Stack it up. Sit that right on top. Give it a loose wrap. Come tight. Be careful with that fine thread. Pull a little forward. Another tight wrap. Come forward. Tie it off. Trim that hair. You are good to go. Hogan's all-purpose red emerger. Hang that behind a chubby Chernobyl or just kind of grease with some Aquel, that hair wing, and let it sit in the film on its own.